Hey there, welcome over here to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be showing you 5 new one-pot meals, and if you don't clearly know yet, I'm in love with making my family one-pot meals because you throw everything into your pot or your pan, cook it up, and you have a very minimal mess and a really easy dinner to serve onto your table. So I hope you can find a recipe for yourself today, and let's go start cooking. It got super duper cold this past week here in Utah, so that called for some loaded baked potato soup. To begin, on my cutting board right here, I am going to cut my 8 strips of bacon into smaller bite-sized pieces like this. Now over to my Dutch oven, or you could use a large pot, I'm adding the bacon in and I'm going to cook it through and crisp it up. Once it is nice and crispy, I'm going to remove the bacon to a separate plate lined with paper towels. I did leave all of the bacon grease in the pan. So now into that bacon grease, I'm adding 1 onion that I diced. I'm going to soften this onion. It should take about 5 to 6 minutes. While our onion is cooking away, I am going to peel and dice our 6 medium russet potatoes into bite-sized pieces like this. I'm going to set our potatoes to the side, and now back over to the onion that we were sauteing. I added in a tablespoon of minced garlic, and I gave that a really good stir to make the garlic become fragrant. And then go ahead and add in your 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour, stir that in, and let the flour get a nice golden color. Once it is golden, toss in your russet potatoes that we just cut up, and then you will be adding in 4 cups of chicken broth along with 2 cups of milk, 2/3 cups of half and half, and then for the seasonings, I'm adding in a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of black pepper, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder. Give this a really good stir. Go ahead and let this simmer on your stove uncovered for about 10 minutes. You do want to stir it frequently, and then after those 10 minutes of simmering, your potatoes should be perfectly fork tender. And this is what I like to do at this point. I like to grab my potato masher and mash up some of those potatoes in our soup. Not all of them, but just some of them. That's optional. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. But anyways, after I mashed up those potatoes, I added in my 2/3 cup of sour cream along with half of the bacon that we cooked up earlier. I saved the other half to go on top of our soups once it is finished cooking, and then I added in a 1/4 cup of sliced green onions along with 3/4 cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese. Go ahead and give this a really good stir, and then let this continue to simmer on your stove for an additional 10 minutes. Here's my gorgeous loaded baked potato soup. I topped mine with more cheese, sour cream, bacon, and green onions. We had family over to enjoy this soup with us on this particular night, and they said this was the best loaded baked potato soup they've ever had, so that says something. Now we're making this old-fashioned goulash, and oh boy, this recipe's perfect for this time of year. To begin, in my Dutch oven, I added my 1 pound of ground beef. I'm breaking the ground beef up with my meat masher, and I'm cooking it until it's about 90% of the way cooked through. If you have a ton of grease in your pan at this point, go ahead and remove any excess grease. And then I added my 1 white onion that I diced along with a tablespoon of minced garlic. I let the ground beef cook through and the onion get soft, and then I added my 1/2 cup of beef broth along with 2.5 cups of water, 30 ounces of tomato sauce, 30 ounces of diced tomatoes, and then for the seasonings, add in 2 bay leaves. You might not think the bay leaves do much, but they really do. And then a tablespoon of Italian seasoning. Give this a really good stir, and then I let this simmer on my stove covered for about 10 minutes. After the time of simmering is up, you will add in your 2.5 cups of uncooked elbow noodles, and then let this continue to simmer for an additional 15 to 20 minutes or until the noodles are cooked. You do want to stir this frequently so the noodles don't stick to the bottom of your pot. Also, if your water line does get too low while your goulash is simmering, you could always add in about a 1/2 cup more water in at a time. But now that my goulash is cooked, I removed the 2 bay leaves. I added in a dash dash of salt and pepper, along with a half a cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese. I let the cheese melt down and then it was ready to serve. Here's my plate of food. This goulash is definitely a kid-friendly meal and adult-friendly. My daughter devours it and so do I. I served it alongside of a side salad with spinach, romaine, cherry tomatoes, avocado, and dried cranberry with this Bolthouse Farms ranch on it. I really do love that ranch. Now we're making this healthier chicken and quinoa one-pan meal. To my pan on the stove, I added 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Once my oil was hot, I'm going to add my 1 pound of boneless, skinless chicken thighs in. I did trim any excess fat off of my chicken thighs. And then I did season them on both sides with dried rosemary, paprika, salt, and pepper. I seared these chicken thighs for about 2 minutes on each side, so you don't want to completely cook them through. They will continue cooking here in a minute. Once my chicken was through searing, I removed it to a separate plate and set that plate to the side. In the same pan that we seared the chicken in, I added an additional tablespoon of olive oil, along with my 8 ounces of sliced mushrooms and 1 onion that I diced. I let the onions and the mushrooms cook for about 5 to 6 minutes or until they were soft like this. And then I added my tablespoon of minced garlic. I gave this a really good stir to let the garlic become fragrant. It just took about 30 seconds, I'd say. And then I added in my 1 cup of quinoa. I did rinse my quinoa first. And then you will add in your 2 cups of chicken broth. Let this simmer on your stove for 10 minutes. After those 10 minutes of simmering, add back in your chicken that we seared earlier. And then you will let this continue to simmer on your stove for an additional 20 to 25 minutes or until your quinoa is cooked. All I really have to say about this dinner is, oh dear, it is so good. The chicken is perfectly juicy and flavorful, and that quinoa is out of this world. I really need to cook with quinoa more often. My family really enjoys it. Now we're making these classic burrito bowls. So to get this one started in my Dutch oven, or you could use a deeper saute pan, I have 1 pound of ground beef. I'm breaking the ground beef up and I cooked it through. I did remove any excess grease once the ground beef was cooked. And then I added my 1/3 cup of salsa. Any brand of salsa will work, along with a 15-ounce can of drained and rinsed black beans, a 15-ounce can of corn that I drained, 4-ounce can of diced green chilies, 15-ounce can of diced tomatoes. Next, add your 1 cup of jasmine rice in. This rice is uncooked. And then for the seasonings, I'm adding in a tablespoon of taco seasoning, along with a teaspoon of chili powder, and then a 1/2 tablespoon of this ranch seasoning. If you don't have ranch seasoning on hand, you could skip that step. Next, you'll add in your 2.5 cups of chicken broth. Give this a stir and bring it up to a simmer. Let this simmer cover on your stove for about 20 to 25 minutes or until your rice is tender. You do want to stir it frequently though while it is simmering. And if your liquid line gets too low, make sure you do add a little bit more water in just to ensure the rice does cook. But now that our rice is tender, it's time to add in our 1 cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese. Let the cheese melt down, and then it is time to serve these burrito bowls up. You could top yours with whatever your favorite toppings are, but I topped mine with more cheese, cilantro, cherry tomatoes, lime, sour cream, and guacamole. I really think you'd enjoy this simple dinner. It is delicious. Now we're making this perfect chicken and vegetable stir fry. Sometimes I do get questions about how I make my white rice, so I'm going to show you how I make it in my Instant Pot. I spray the bottom of my Instant Pot with nonstick spray, and then I add my 2 cups of rinsed jasmine or white rice, and then I add in 2 cups of water. I give it a stir, and then I put the lid on top, set it to sealing, and then I just press the rice button, and that is all you have to do. So now that our rice is cooking, I'm going to start on the stir fry. In my pan, I have a tablespoon of hot olive oil, and then I added my 1 pound of cubed chicken breast. I seasoned the chicken with a dash of salt and pepper, and then I let the chicken cook through. While our chicken is cooking away, I am going to start on the vegetables. You could use any veggies you like for this stir fry, but I used what I had on hand. So I used 4 ounces of mushrooms that I sliced, a half a pound of asparagus, a couple large carrots that I sliced, and a small head of broccoli. Now that our chicken is cooked, I'm removing it to a separate plate, and I am going to set this plate to the side. In the same pan that we cooked our chicken in, I added an additional tablespoon of olive oil, and then add the veggies and saute these veggies around until they get soft. Once our veggies are to the softness that we like them to be, I removed them to a separate bowl and I set that bowl to the side. In the same pan that we cooked the veggies in, I added an additional tablespoon of olive oil along with a tablespoon of minced garlic and ginger. I gave this a whisk to let the garlic and ginger become fragrant and took about 30 seconds. And then I added in my teaspoon of sesame oil along with 1 cup of chicken broth, a third a cup of low sodium soy sauce, a tablespoon of brown sugar, and then you will whisk this together and bring this mixture up to a simmer. Once it does start to simmer, you will slowly sift in your 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. You do want to whisk it while you are sifting it in, and you do want to make sure you do sift it in just to ensure that there are no flour clumps that form in your sauce. But bring the sauce up to a simmer, and then once it does thicken up, you will add back in the cooked vegetables and the cooked chicken. Coat the veggies and the chicken in the sauce, and then it is ready to serve. Of course, I served our stir fry over the rice that we made up in the Instant Pot together, but this stir fry is so phenomenal. The sauce is out of this world, and I love how you could toss so many different vegetables in there, and it really does come out perfect. I hope you found a recipe for yourself today, and I would really love to have you here. So go ahead and subscribe down below the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.